Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Regular Housing and Redevelopment Authority of Richfield. It is December 21st at 7 p.m. Would you please take the roll call for us?
Yes, thank you. Chair Supple?
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott?
Here.
Commissioner Reagan-Gonzalez?
Here.
Commissioner Sandal? Not present. And Commissioner Vrees-Daniels? Not present.
All right, thank you very much. Our next thing is the open forum, and that's an opportunity to address the HRA and items not on the agenda. You can dial in at 612-861-0651, and as you call in, a moderator will assist you. Do we have anyone that is on the line right now?
Chair Supple, we do not have any callers at this moment.
All right, well, we can just wait for a moment and see if anyone else calls in. Thank you. Is it about a 2-minute delay? Is that usually?
Yeah, it's about a minute delay. And our moderator says it's still very quiet, no callers.
Okay, we'll wait another minute. All right, Administrative Assistant Dubois, is anyone else called in?
Chair Supple, we do not have any callers.
Okay, well then I'm going to move on with the agenda. Our next item is approval of the minutes of the regular HRA meeting of November 16th, 2020.
Move the approval.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Elliott and seconded by Commissioner Reagan-Gonzalez to approve the minutes of November 16th. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we can call the roll for the vote.
Thank you. Chair Supple?
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott?
Aye.
Commissioner Reagan-Gonzalez?
Aye.
We have 3 ayes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Reagan-Gonzalez and seconded by Commissioner Elliott to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take the vote.
Thank you. Chair Supple?
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott?
Aye.
Commissioner Reagan-Gonzalez?
Aye.
We have 3 ayes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our first item on our agenda is consideration of the adoption of a resolution related to the sale of the Henley apartment portion of the Lindale Gardens development, approving an assignment and assumption agreement and a collateral assignment of the secondary developer tax increment funding note to the new buyer and their lender. Executive Director Stark.
Yes, thank you, Chair Supple and Commissioners. Melissa Paleman, the Assistant Community Development Director, has been the project manager for the Lakes at Lindale, for the Lindale Gardens site. And so I would ask her to present the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Chair Supple, members of the board. In 2018, the HRA approved a contract for the redevelopment of the Lindale Gardens site, and that included 2 components on the north half of the development site. There was the 30-unit condo building and also a component that involved 66 apartments and 8 rental townhomes. That portion was purchased by Richfield Property Holdings, LLC. and they have constructed and managed that property since. That developer is now selling that portion of the property. And so tonight, the HRA is being asked to approve two things related to that sale. The first is an assignment and assumption agreement, which is an agreement with the new developer to make sure that that developer is now bound by the contract. That includes the details of the TIF deal, the affordability, all of those details. We're making sure that this new developer will now have to follow all of those things. The second thing you're being asked to approve is the assignment of the TIF note, and that's the assignment to this new buyer's bank to make sure that they can get their financing to purchase the property. So this is essentially just changing the players, not changing any details of the contract. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to try and answer those for you.
Chair Supple.
Commissioner Reagan-Gonzalez?
Could you just explain why they're selling this to somebody else, and just for folks?
Sure. So the developer is actually selling this in order to purchase and construct the project that was approved across the street. And that project has formerly been known as the Henley 2. It's now been renamed. But in order to finance that project, they're going to sell this one.
Got it. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none, would someone like to move the item?
Yes, I can do this. Sorry, I was trying to get onto the agenda. I would like to make the motion to adopt a resolution approving the assignment of the certain documents in connection with a development, the Henley Apartments, within the Lindale Gardens Tax Increment Financing District.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any further comments, questions, or discussion items? All right, well, thank you for all of that information. I didn't realize that's why they were selling it. That was very helpful to find that out. So with that, Administrative Assistant Dubois, would you please take the roll?
Yes, thank you. Chair Supple,
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott,
Aye.
Commissioner Reagan-Gonzalez.
Aye.
We have 3 ayes. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is consideration of a resolution approving the amendment and/or assignment of documents associated with the Henley 2 redevelopment project. Executive Director Stark.
Thank you, Chair Supple. This is very similar to the previous item. As Assistant Director Pillman said about the previous item, this does not change any contract provisions. It just changes some of the players. That was an excellent question on the last one as to why they were doing that. And I will tell you that when the Henley and then the Henley 2 subsequently came to the HRA and the City Council and others for consideration, we did look into the development team. North Bay is the primary developer, and we looked at their portfolio, and it did appear to us, and they had told us that they keep the majority of their properties in their portfolio once they develop them. As Melissa said, this is selling the Henley 1 really gave them the capital that they needed to develop the Henley 2. None of us can guarantee whether they will continue ownership of the Henley 2, but that the last we heard was their plan. So the Henley 2 development, and this is being rebranded as the Rowan Apartments. So you'll probably hear that name going forward instead of Henley 2. It consists of the construction of 82 apartment units, new apartment units, and the rehabilitation of 22 existing units of mixed income housing located at 65th Street in Lindale. The Richfield HRA approved a contract for private development with the developer on July 20th and approved a housing TIF district for the project on September 21st, 2020. It is not unusual for a developer to bring in additional equity partners to a project once it has been approved. In this case, the original development team, which organized themselves as 6345 Partners LLC, which was primarily comprised of the key players at North Bay, have taken on 2 additional project partners and have identified a lender. As a result, several documents need to either be amended or assigned to the new combined entity. The specific documents and the action being authorized by the attached resolution include a first amendment to a contract to add 2 additional partners to the project, Richfield Property Holdings LLC and 15th NB Property LLC. 2, declaration of restrictive covenants. And really, this places a deed restriction on the property, requiring an established amount of affordable housing to be contained in the development. So it's really our enforcement mechanism, in addition to being able to withhold the TIF if they don't perform. And then 3, collateral assignment of the development and TIF note for the benefit of Drake Bank, the financing partner in this project. So with that, I would stand for any questions you might have.
Are there any questions? All right. Thank you for that thorough explanation. Would someone like to move the agenda item?
Yep, I can make the motion to adopt a resolution approving the assignment of certain documents in connection with a development located within the 2020-1 tax increment financing district, the Henley 2.
Let's second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Right. Again, thank you. Administrative Assistant Dubois, can you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you. Chair Supple,
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott,
Aye.
Commissioner Regan Gonzalez.
Aye.
We have 3 ayes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're moving on to HRA discussion items. Are there any matters that anyone wants to discuss? All right, then we'll move on to the Executive Director's report. Mr. Stark.
I do not have a report for tonight's HRA meeting.
Okay, then I guess we'll move on to claims.
I'll move claims and payroll.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the claims and payroll. Is there any discussion? All right, would you please call the roll? Thank you, Administrative Assistant Dubois.
Yes, thank you. Chair Supple,
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott,
Aye.
Commissioner Regan Gonzalez.
Aye.
We have 3 ayes. Thank you.
All right, that concludes the agenda for this evening. Thank you all. I'm wishing everyone to have a safe and happy holiday season. We're going to start the EDA meeting in about 2 minutes because it was put out that it would start at 7:15. So we'll switch over to that. Thank you.
Do we switch? Is there an additional meeting or we just?
I think I only got the one invitation myself.
Yeah, I think we're going to stay on this one. I just meant switch to the other agenda.
Cool.
I had to flip computer screen. Sorry. Sorry about that.
I believe we can start once 7:15 comes around.
All right. Yeah. So I think we're at 7:14. We're a little too efficient, I guess. All right. According to my computer, it is 7:15, so I'm going to call to order the Economic Development Authority meeting of the City of Richfield. It's being held virtually via WebEx on December 21st, and it is 7:15. So first of all, we'll take attendance, please.
Thank you. President Supple,
Aye. Or here, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Elliott,
Here.
Commissioner Regan Gonzalez,
Here.
Commissioner Vries Daniels, not present. Commissioner Sandal, not present. We have 3 members present. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is open forum, and just so we can hear somebody else talk for a while, Administrative Assistant Dubois, would you like to explain open forum?
Yes, so people can call into the live comment line for public forum, and then their comments can be heard. The phone number that they can call is 612-861-0651, and as you call in, a moderator will assist you. And as a reminder, you can always submit comments in advance by emailing them to Director Stark or myself. And we currently have no callers on the line.
All right, thank you so much. We'll wait about another minute or so. So do we have anyone calling in?
No, President Supple, we do not have any callers.
All right, then we will move on to the approval of the regular EDA meeting minutes of October 19th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
So it's been moved by Commissioner Regan Gonzalez and seconded by Commissioner Elliott to approve the minutes of the October 19th EDA meeting. Any discussion? If not, then we'll go ahead and call for the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, President Supple,
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott,
Aye.
Commissioner Regan Gonzalez.
Aye.
We have 3 ayes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
So it's been moved by Commissioner Elliott and seconded by Commissioner Regan Gonzalez to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to the vote.
Thank you, President Supple,
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott,
Aye.
Commissioner Regan Gonzalez.
Aye.
We have 3 ayes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next item of business is consideration of a resolution implementing a displaced business grant. Executive Director Stark.
Thank you, President Supple. On March 16th of this year, the EDA discussed the creation of a displaced business grant. At that meeting, EDA commissioners agreed that they wanted to ensure that funding is made available to businesses that are displaced as a result of redevelopment projects that receive funding from the City of Richfield, the Richfield HRA, or the Housing or the Richfield EDA. In some cases, that funding would be provided by the developer as formal relocation benefits as prescribed by the Uniform Relocation Act, or URA. In some cases, however, the timing and nature of a developer's actions to purchase a property and redevelop it does not legally obligate a developer to provide any such relocation benefits. In these instances, the EDA's displaced business grant would offer some degree of assistance. The implementation of creating the displaced business grant was ceased in late March when it became evident that the most pressing need for EDA business assistance was to provide COVID-19 relief. At this time, however, there is potential that businesses could be displaced by redevelopment in the coming months, and staff believes it is important to have this displaced business grant program in place so that affected businesses could be made aware of available funding before beginning their search for a replacement property. Other than the per business funding, staff is continuing to recommend the same guidelines that were proposed by staff and generally agreed upon by the EDA in March. The recommended funding, however, has been slightly increased from a maximum of $3,000 per business to a maximum of $3,600 per business. The recommended guidelines are as follows. In order to be eligible, a business must be required to move due to the approval of a redevelopment project that is receiving at least $100,000 in funding from the Richfield HRA or EDA pursuant to a development agreement executed by the developer and either the EDA or HRA. This would not apply when it's just a preliminary agreement, which is more of a kind of a feeling out process with the developer. Number two, in order to receive funding, the business must have been in place at least 3 months prior to the signing of a development agreement and 1 year in order to receive full funding. Number three, the business must relocate within Richfield's boundaries. Number four, the business must open for business within 6 months of displacement from their former location. And number five, the business must provide a valid lease or other similar documentation from the property from which it is being displaced. And finally, the business must provide an employer identification number assigned by the U.S. Department of Revenue. And in terms of funding, up to $3,600 in total grant funding, comprised of an upfront payment for 1 year of increased lease rate based on documentation of most recent lease rate from the location of displacement, and a signed copy of a lease with a replacement location, and or reimbursement for actual moving costs, fixture installations, and or signage costs. Copies of paid invoices would be required. So the idea here is that with the $3,600, it could be a combination of these two things, or it could be entirely one or the other, or some combination thereof. If the business has received relocation assistance under the Uniform Relocation and Real Property Acquisition Act, it cannot receive assistance under this grant program for the same cost paid with those relocation benefits. Businesses in place for less than 1 year but more than 3 months would receive a 8.33% of the above payments for each month that they were open to the public at the subject property prior to the HRA's formal approval of the development agreement. And that's really just 1 year prorated. 8.33% is 1/12. And grant recipients are responsible for determining the tax liability, if any, of receiving this grant. So with that, I would take any questions you might have. We're very glad to be able to propose this to you. This is a big reason the EDA was set up is to assist our local businesses, especially those that are hurting the most. And in these cases, we might be the one participating in that hurt. So we thought it was important to find a way to participate and help. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Commissioner Regan-Gonzalez?
This isn't a question, but just a comment. I just want to thank our staff and the Community Development Department for working on this. I know that our Community Development Department has always done such a great job in seeing gaps in our community and areas where they can help fill those gaps, and this is another example. But in Richfield, like in many cities, we have attention and these multiple priorities, as we've talked about in other meetings, about with growth and redevelopment. And so we want to continue to support our small businesses, but we also have so many commercial spaces that a lot of residents reach out to us and say, what can we do to give these places a facelift? What can we do? And this displacement grant really helps hopefully find a home for these small businesses that people love in another part of our community, so they can continue to be a part of our community, but then at the same time help us in the redevelopment needs that we do have as a city. I know one of the buildings that we have that maybe, we might have some businesses benefiting from this soon is one of the oldest shopping, centers in the city, and it's pretty old and run down. So when I've talked to small businesses about the possibility of this grant, they've been very excited and interested. And then there's COVID, and I'm not sure how COVID's going to affect all of this in terms of our small businesses surviving, but then also the type of commercial space that's freed up, and is that going to be space that maybe is possibly more affordable for folks? There's so many changes, and I know that we don't know the answers, but we are putting resources like this in place to help in finding solutions here in Richfield. So I want to thank our staff for that tremendous work on this.
Well, thank you. I don't remember where the genesis of this idea came from. I suspect it came from a combination of staff and elected and appointed officials. It's so nice that we are so often on the same page on these kind of things. I will tell you that I'm in a work group with all the other suburban CD directors, and there is no other suburban community in Minnesota that has this. I'd be surprised if Minneapolis or St. Paul did. So this is another instance where Richfield is trailblazing a program, and I suspect that in a few years you will see other communities having something like this. I will also tell you that we have made the developer of the Lin 65 site, Link 65, aware of this, and assuming that this is approved by the EDA tonight, we will provide them with some materials to pass along to their tenants.
Are there other questions or comments? I appreciate that you're going to be making sure that we pass this on to those small businesses that are affected by that development, because I remember when they first brought the idea forward of looking at the development, that was a big concern, and the small business owners are a big priority, and we want to keep them here in the city because they've been here for a long time, and they're part of our community, and we want them to stay. So thank you for making that possible and for finding ways to help them. Are there any other questions or comments? All right, then we'll go ahead and take the vote then. Administrative Assistant Dubois?
Thank you. President Supple?
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott?
Aye.
Commissioner Regan Gonzalez?
Aye.
We have 3 ayes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we move on to EDA discussion items. All right, if there are none, we'll move on to the Executive Director's report.
Yes, thank you. I would just like to say that obviously 2020 has been a very difficult year. We have, as collectively, we've been doing our best to get through it and to help our community where we can. And I just want to pass along my gratitude to you folks who serve as HRA and EDA commissioners. The work that you do and the support that you give staff is just incredible. And not only myself, but the entire community development staff, as well as City Manager Rodriguez, really appreciate the work that you do and thank you for it.
Thank you for those kind words. And we also appreciate the staff. You guys have done above and beyond to help find ways to help people. So next we'll move on to claims.
I will move claims.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve claims. Is there any discussion? I did want to make a comment that I think retiring council member Garcia would be very excited about these claims, because when we were looking, that's always her favorite agenda item. But when I was looking through them, it was really exciting because it had all the payouts for the people that were getting the forgivable loans for the small businesses. So you could look through all the different places in the city where people were being helped with the forgivable loan program. So I just thought that was kind of exciting. The best part of the whole, of the claims report was to look at all that good news. So are there any other questions or comments? All right, then we'll move on to taking the vote.
Thank you. President Supple?
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott?
Aye.
Commissioner Regan Gonzalez?
Aye.
We have 3 ayes. Thank you.
All right, well, that concludes our business for this evening. Happy New Year, everyone, and have a great and safe holiday season. Thank you.